Welcome to the Ausländer. So, welcome to a new episode of the Ausländer, the podcast thought to talk about the experience of the expats and people who move from their homeland to new places of the world. Today, I'm really happy to have Gerard Valdivia here with me. He's originally from Barcelona, from Catalonia. You lived in Amsterdam, Berlin, and Prague. Is that correct? That's the correct order?
That's the correct kind of order. The main base was Amsterdam, but then in between I did Berlin and I did Prague. Yeah.
Cool. Gerard and I, we know from a friend of a friend of a friend, like these typical circumstances of life. We ended celebrating our summer solstice typical party that's called San Joan in Catalonia together. And then we have been in touch since then. We have a common group of friends. And yeah, so I thought it would be a good idea to talk with you about mainly Amsterdam, I suppose. As you said, it was the base that you were using there.
Yes.
Professionally wise, I mean, I don't know what to say. Like, you're a theater maker. I think you can just like explain it by yourself, because I think you are doing everything around theater. So
In that kind of, yeah, well, the main base is theater, and I am a set designer, but I also train a lot in the movement stuff, the choreography part. So the way how I design is really based on bodies of movement in space. Mm-hmm. So that's what brings me to choreography, and also to the performing part. I do perform. It's more like a physical theater with a base on dance, with a background on dancing. But it's more like a physical theater and yeah, pretty conceptual, pretty abstract. It's not like the mime, I open the door. Pantomime, it's not really my thing, but it's very based on the body and movement.
So when did you move to Amsterdam? It was related already with theater, or it was studying?
Actually not. Well, let's say I was in Amsterdam for the first time when I was 10 with my parents. We actually, when I was a kid, me and my sister, we spent for a month in a country. Lucky us. And 2000 actually we decided to go actually my parents decided to go to to the Netherlands, and that was my first time in Amsterdam. Many years later, I was in Barcelona, and then I met a few people. I found love. So I was hanging around and stuff. So I met a lot of people from the Netherlands. Fine. I was there a couple of times with them, and it was very nice. And a few years later, I had the idea of moving out. I want to discover different experience of living abroad, but it was nothing actually really clear. And I had a friend from the Netherlands as well, and I had the idea of like, when I was working, I finished my job in October, and I was really like, I really want to move in January. If I don't find a job in January, I will move. My ideas was because of the language. It was London, and it was the Netherlands, because I had this like kind of connection with the country. Mm-hmm. I was talking with this friend of mine, and he told me, okay. I told him kind of, okay, I don't find a job. I'm joking, I was joking, and it was like, I might move to Amsterdam. And he was like, okay, sure. Like, if you want to stay at my place for 1 month, you're welcome. I was like, whoa, wait. But it was kind of a joke. It was nothing really clear. And a few weeks later, I was talking with a guy who is not actually a friend. Mm-hmm. It was like this random conversation with someone you don't actually know, but you can open yourself and talk about everything. And I was like, let's do it. Let's confirm with my friend that I can stay at his place for 1 month, which is actually was a nice input because and I bought a one-way ticket, like literally 1 month before moving. So yeah, and then Mama, Papa, I have one-way ticket to Amsterdam, and well, the first reaction was negative, like, what are you doing? No, no, no. But yeah, it happened. 1 month later, I was arriving to Amsterdam for 6 months, which it became way longer.
So eventually you didn't have a work in there either. So you were just finishing the contract in Barcelona and you said, okay, it's time to do a change. Let's go for it. I go to Amsterdam. I will find my way. I mean, you had a big advantage already there that it's having a place to stay without needing to search for an apartment straightforward, which is always a fucking nightmare.
Exactly. I'm from the distance, So yeah, exactly. So
when does that happen? Like, how old were you when you take this decision?
I was 22. I was 22, and I'm a person who have been always like, I'm from a little town next to Barcelona, and I'm one of the few people in my group, or my school kind of group, but I decided to very quickly. I moved already to Barcelona. Very quickly, I was already doing things out of the little town. I also, as I said before, with my parents, I have been traveling a lot during my when I was a kid. So I've been always had the curiosity to like see different things and stuff. So that was one of the motors. What I did, one of the triggers of what I wanted to discover new things. But actually, my idea was to move like for 6 months. But because I didn't know, it's true. It was really nice that I had 1 month for sure at the place of a friend, which it was at the end it didn't went that good. But anyway, I didn't, even if it was for a month, it was already nice. Like the experience of living abroad for a bit was already nice. Then when I moved there, I went there with some money. It's not that I went there like to see what happened. I had some money, but and I had few contacts of people, but actually it wasn't super easy, but it was okay. I found a job like actually after 1 month. Then after the job, I could find a place where I was there for two months. Actually, well, not too long. I didn't like it, but anyway. And then there was a moment that I was studying, and I knew I wanted to keep studying, but I moved in the 8th of January. If I wanted to start studying in the Netherlands, I had to start moving in March. April to apply for universities or schools. I didn't know after 2 or 3 months if I wanted to compromise myself to be there for like 4 years. So I was like, I had a job, I had a place, and I was like, okay, let's stay for 1 year. That was the only deadline I had during my period in the Netherlands. And actually, it didn't finish that year. That, let's say that the first 6 months, I knew a lot of people. It was very nice, but I wasn't sure what will happen with me. I was like there living. I felt like living, but not really like I'm attached to Amsterdam like 100%. But when I say I'm staying for a year, everything changed. Friends, people who I met during the first 6 months that they were like floating around, they became friends. So everything changed in that direction. And well, that year never ended. The year that I said it's going to be a year never ended, that I found new friends, real friends. I moved to the place where I lived for the next 6 years. So I lived in Amsterdam for 7. So I found a school. I was accepted in a school. Everything was going like perfect. So I never actually had the decision, okay, the year finished, now I have to take decisions. No.
So there was not a binding thing that was telling you, okay, I have a work to do for a project, I don't know, for 6 months, actually, and when I'm done here, I need to take a decision. So it was more like...
Well, I said a year to say a year. I had a job, I had a house. So it was not like in a year my contract's finished, so I would have to make a decision. No, it was like a year.
Where were you
long
working
enough
on?
To at that moment I was working in a bar, in a restaurant. So nothing like something that it really has really attached
the typical thing to do when you arrive to a new place.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. It was a very nice restaurant, but I was not super attached to Amsterdam either. So it was like I could just like say bye and. But I would say 1 year, and then everything became like home. And
so you went for 2 months, 2 to 6 months, and you ended living there for 7 years.
Yeah, but I have to say that I was really open to. I'm a person who is like I like the things to happen like not like super planned. I like the things to happen like on its way. But I guess that it's something that I really wanted to live abroad for a while, not for a little while, but I was super open to stay longer. I was in my mind the same way that I was said a year. In my mind wasn't 6 months. It was 6 months at least. Completely open to whatever happened.
Yeah, I imagine like. I had the same sensation when I was living in Barcelona at that point of time. I was like, yeah, okay, I have right now a contract, whatever. I know it's not indefinite for the moment, but in my interior, I had quite clear that it will not be soon that I would come back, if I come back, which I haven't done yet. But yeah, I totally feel it. I think you go with the perspective of saying, oh, okay, I have something in there. It might be 1 year, it might be 2 years, it might be 6 months, whatever it is. But I don't know, if you have it in interior mind that you are just thinking about probably discovering more places and going into this like discovery phase, you never end. It's a rabbit hole.
Exactly. And actually for my way of being, I really didn't want to be a guest in Amsterdam. I wanted to be an Amsterdammer. Maybe I don't feel myself as a Dutch person. I'm not, but I totally feel Amsterdammer. I didn't want. It's not that I didn't want, but I don't have many Spanish or Catalan friends in the Netherlands. I do know people. Of course, I have friends from there, but I didn't want to get in the ghetto of like people from abroad living in Amsterdam. Okay. So I really
Spanish in Amsterdam group.
Yeah, no. I really didn't want to have that experience because it ended up being a group. I have been in a couple of meetings of them, but it for them it ended up being like a oasis of like I don't like the food, I don't like the weather, I don't like the people, blah blah. I'm very lucky to say that I decided myself to move to the Netherlands, to Amsterdam. That includes the fact that I knew that the weather would be different. The weather never, ever, ever bothered me. I knew that I was going to a country, it would be colder, it would be rainy. It's what it is. I chose myself. The food is different. But at the end of the day, how many times we eat paella in Spain? Once every a lot. So I was cooking myself whatever I need to cook, so it wasn't bothering me either. And the people is different. That's true. But well, I chose myself to move, so I knew where I was going. So in that sense, I was never like. And didn't. Sometimes it was cool to meet Spanish people and Catalan people, of course. Yeah. Sometimes.
I mean, it's nice to just way of like communicating. Exactly talking again your language, just like going back to say, cool. Okay, that's nice, like whatever. I feel it also like you need it from time to time to go out with a couple of Catalan guys and remember how Catalan is spoken,
But now I'm back in Barcelona since 3 years ago, and I miss the internationality of that I had in Amsterdam. I miss speaking in English. I miss don't have to promote the Catalan all the time. I love it. It's my language, but come on, it's I miss this kind of international vibe that I had in Amsterdam that I don't actually have here. Oh, I have it in a different way, let's say.
Yeah, I mean, it's a different thing because eventually you can have it in Barcelona. You can end having international friends, but you're the local. you are not the international person in your own home, so it makes a lot of difference when you are in Amsterdam. In your case, I'm pretty sure you arrived there and you needed to fight a little bit more to get into circles of people that they are already established. Normally that's the opposite. When you are in your own thing in Barcelona at home, the person who is fighting to enter your group, it's normally a person who comes from outside, in a circle of friends, I mean. And that's what it makes it different. That I also feel like sometimes that friends that you make abroad, like in your case in Amsterdam, for example, they are harder also to make. It's not a connection that comes like automatically from school or from a friend of a friend, whatever. And that's much valuable. It gives a value to them.
But I think also, I mean, I'm trying to avoid the word expat, but there is a big community of expats in Amsterdam. So, or immigrants living in Amsterdam, which I think it connects you in a different way. The same way I wanted to feel like the fact that I was living in Amsterdam. I didn't want to be a guest. I have a lot of Dutch friends, but I also have a lot of international friends. And the way how you connect to the international friends, you have something in common. You arrive to a country which is not yours. You have to adapt to many things, blah, blah, blah. And that's also a thing that makes you have something in common that no one from the Netherlands lived before.
Yeah.
And there's also a connection that you won't have with someone local. Me here with my Spanish friends, with my Catalan friends, I don't have the connection I had with my international friends in Amsterdam.
Yeah, totally. You just said before that you found a school in there, meaning you continued studying. So you were just working in there, and then suddenly you take the step that you were not doing the first year, and you decided to apply to some kind of studies, or.
Let's say the first year I decide I'm going to take a bit of time to see what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. And then I applied for a school, and then I applied for another school. I did the course in one school, and then I applied for the school that I actually had in mind from the beginning. I studied architecture in Barcelona, and then I want to keep that direction a little bit. Even knowing that I was into theater, I was already doing theater since I'm a kid, actually. But then I found a school, international school, so in English, in The Hague, Den Haag. It was the Royal University of Arts of the Hague, and I studied there interior architecture and furniture design, which was more like in the direction I wanted to go for the theater path, let's say. I did one course. It was very, very nice. I met a lot of people. It was very interesting. The school was amazing. The workshops there are wow. But it wasn't theater. And but the school that I checked really from the beginning when I moved there, or even before, since I knew that I was moving there, it was the other school from Amsterdam. The theatre school, University of Arts of Amsterdam Theatre School, but they said that the first year you had to do it in English. They let you do the first year in English, but then you actually have to learn Dutch. And now we get into the language topic. But so I wasn't actually super ready after 1 year to compromise myself. I mean, I do speak Dutch now, but by then it was like, okay, it's university level. I don't know exactly if I can make it. I don't know. When I had to take the decisions, I didn't speak Dutch at all. Enough to
go to study in that.
University. Yeah. Exactly. So it was like, So I decided to apply for the school, international school in The Hague, which I was accepted by Loyola. So it was very nice. And then when I finished that course, I decided to apply for the theatre school in Amsterdam. My Dutch was already my Dutch became better when I decided I'm staying for a year more. So then at the beginning it was like learning like the basics, and from then it was like, okay, now I want to. I need to improve my Dutch to actually, well, not for myself, but also to live here. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So then I applied for the school and I was accepted, and I stayed there, set design and scenography.
Okay, cool. So that was already like really focalized. So a kind of combination of the architecture that you have studied until then with the theater and how to make a scenography out of both parts, or it was like something 100% new?
Let's say my architecture background. I still love architecture. I still think that it's very interesting, but in a technical way, which I'm more into the arts side and into the performing side, and working with light, working with in architecture. You also can work with light, of course, but it's different point of view. I'm working more from the conceptual, abstract, and more for an artistic expression, which architecture was giving me more the technical stuff. Plus, I was studying architecture in Spain, in Barcelona, in a technical university.
Cool, yeah. Cool. I think it's really interesting. Like, how did you start learning Dutch? I would suggest that we do just a short break now, and then we jump directly into the language topic, because if they force you for like after 1 year to start speaking Dutch, that's a really, really short time to learn a language. But let's do the short break and we jump into it.
Perfect.
So we're back. Technical break, as always. Change of set. We were just talking about language just before we did the cut. You said that. So eventually, I kind of connect with the idea that if you know that you're staying for a longer period than 6 months or 1 year, I don't really have a clear idea where it's my time limit, because I always stayed longer than 1 or 2 years into the places where I lived. But it clicks something on you to say, hey, it's now time to learn the language, maybe learn the culture a little bit deeper, go to not only know the basics of, hey, hi, hello, how are you, go to the supermarket, but trying to properly learn the language. You said that was the case when you know that you were staying at least for 1 year, but also the school in Amsterdam was going to force you more or less to start taking lessons in Dutch after 1 year. So how did you manage that?
Okay, let's say that the same way that I said that I'm a person who I don't want to be a guest in a place where I live. I really, really wanted to be Amsterdamer. So it's even when because the same way that when I was living in Berlin, I was living in Prague. Of course, I was not going to learn, especially Czech, in 2 days. But I was like, I really want to learn how to say good morning, can I have a beer or whatever. I was super aware that the Dutch was the language. Right?
in Prague, at least, for sure. Like, cheers.
Cheers, protein. So I was like, I really want to learn Dutch from the beginning. I knew I was living there. I was curious also to learn. So I think that's important. When I cannot understand when people decide like properly that they don't want to learn the language. It's like I understand that it's difficult. I understand that maybe you won't be able to communicate yourself like in a year, or proper communication, or proper conversation, let's say. But come on, I think it's important from the beginning at least to make not the effort, the super effort. I'm going to study like 8 hours a day to learn a language. I'm not saying that, but at least to just like to feel curious and to learn how to say apple, beer, or whatever. But not only for because people talk about the respect for the people who live in the country. No, fuck, it's for yourself, to communicate yourself, and it says more about yourself, like about how you perceive like a country, than not actually. They don't care. They just speak the language. If you just speak That's the problem. So for me, it was very funny because, as I said before, I had friends from the Netherlands in Barcelona before even thinking about move to Amsterdam. And once I was in Amsterdam, we were on a bike, and a friend of mine told me, "You have to learn this sentence," and that was my first sentence in Dutch.
Oh my gosh, this is always super dangerous.
And yeah, because people always go to the sexual side
or the angels.
No.
Malaka in Greek.
But mine is pretty sweet. It was like, deze bagage dragen zit voor geen meter, which is nothing sexual. It's nothing about insults. It means the back side of the bike, because I was sitting on the back side of the bike, where you put the suitcases and stuff. It doesn't work in the fact that it's uncomfortable. It doesn't fit. It's not nice to be in, and that's what means the sentence. And it's super nice because when I told Dutch people that was my first sentence, they always like, "Wow, that's cool." It's not you learn other sentences that are more like everybody learns always the same sentence, and it's funny that I could learn another language, another sentence, a bit more creative, a bit more like funny for them also, and it's cool. And for the school thing, they said that I could do this. That the first year I could do it in English. Doesn't mean that the classes were in English. That meant that I could speak in English, but the classes were in Dutch. And and it was not about 1, 2, 3. The house is blue.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's what I meant. Like, this is a complex situation.
It was theater. It was dramaturgy. It was not about how easy is life. No. We had philosophy. We had dramaturgy. We had to read theater text. But I was saying something. It wasn't easy. But at the same time, I'm super into theater. So in this one thing compensates the other. It was difficult to learn a language in the sense that I will never say that in the Netherlands everybody speaks English. It's very difficult to learn Dutch. No, that's a fact. But that's the fact that everybody speaks English. But if you want to learn the language, you make the effort and you learn the language. So I was open into that. Plus, I was into theater. So it wasn't that difficult, let's say, and I make the effort. My Dutch now, it's not perfect, but I can have a fluent conversation, and I can technically and professionally talk in Dutch, as long as we don't go super deep in a meaning of something. My first language there was English, so if I had to do something very specific, I switched to English. But I think my Dutch is good enough to go to see a play in Dutch, and I will understand 90% of what's going on.
How did you arrive to that level? So, I mean, when you start school, you were already 1 year, 3 months in there. If you said
I never actually took a Dutch lesson.
Really?
I never. Yeah, a friend of mine, a Spanish friend of mine who lived there for many years, he teach me maybe we did 2 hours of the basics, to learn the to be in Dutch. Design and the basics, and from there I just start. I did it's true that during few months I was trying to study every day a little bit, and then a friend of mine gave me a book of a children's book, Jeep and Janica, which is not blue. House, the tree. No, it's a book. It's a children's book. So short stories, but with a bit more of content, not as basic. So I read few stories from there, and slowly. And then when you start studying in a theater school, the level goes from here to boom here, and because you are the whole day. You're forced
to somehow it's. I mean, it's not forced.
I don't like to say forced. I like to. You are
it's the opportunity. let's say, let's turn it around in that sense. I had the same feeling with a lot of like cases in Germany, for example. When I was living in Germany, one of the biggest things that it took me so long to learn German, it's that my whole life, including my work, was 100% in English. I didn't have an environment where German was a recurrent language. Of course, I had German friends that eventually they will speak German between them. But if I was there or whatever, if it was a comment that it involved the whole group, they would switch to English. So until I met Catherine and I started having an environment like her family who speaks German in between them in a regular base, or there is some family members who doesn't speak English at all, I wasn't forced to be involved 100% in there. And I don't think that involved, that 100% like brings me to a level of speaking it better. It just brings me a comprehensive level and able to understand what they were saying 100%. I don't know if that's the case that you had in the university, that you were able to be in a lesson, but at the same time you were responding in English. And
first was that, and I mean, of course, my first language was English. I mean, I'm not going to deny that. But of course, the first part was like about to understand the language, so I could understand everything was going on. But and then it moved to communicate myself in Dutch. That was I mean, I don't think it was like there was a few moments I was not forced. So not forced, but kind of
encouraged
to do it, and I said, why not? You know, when I began learning English when I was 4. Then I studied French at the high school. I wasn't a kid anymore, so I wasn't shy anymore. With Dutch, it's like, fuck it. I want to make mistakes. It doesn't matter. I will make them. So that's how actually you learn.
It's funny, but until you didn't realize this, like eventually our whole education system tries to push us to the direction of being perfect with the language. You're never perfect in a language that it's not your mother.
In the Netherlands, everybody speaks English. Yeah, everybody does. Everybody speaks 100% English.
No.
Few of them.
Yeah. The ones who lived in UK.
Exactly. They're used to. And there's a curious thing about the Dutch and Spanish is that normally there are like these sentences that you translate from from Spanish to. You communicate with a Dutch person in English, and you said something translated directly to English from Spanish or Catalan, and you understand with that person because the expression is the same expression, just in different language. But the English, native English, they don't understand because they have their own.
Yeah, because their expression is so fucking weird. Yeah,
differently. But in Spanish or Catalan, we understand in English, but it's the same meaning. So that's curiosity of the language. Yeah.
I mean, there is a kind of connection. I must say, like, I don't know why, but there is, this kind of.
I don't know which king was killed by the other.
Exactly.
There is king or something like that.
Yeah, there is some history involved in there. Plus, there is. I don't know. That the Santa Claus from Netherlands comes from Spain, but
actually, but it's not actually true. Let's say that the Santa Claus celebrated the 5th of January of December. Is coming from right now Italy, but in the days where it was part of Spain.
Spain.
Yeah. It arrived by
steamboat, no? Yeah. Yeah, I was always curious about this story, and that they take the kids who haven't been good to to Spain, like back with Santa Claus. Right, it's like curiosities. Yeah, exactly. Like, hey, you've been really bad. Come to the beaches of Spain. Yeah, sure. Why not?
But I said it's Italy now, eh? Not from.
But it's okay.
I'm not bad either.
Exactly. I like it also. Yeah, I mean, I'm curious. Like you said, Berlin, and we talk about Berlin and Prague in there in between. Like, where does this happen in this whole environment of Amsterdam? It's because of the school that you do kind of an internal program abroad, and then you move to another city, or
not exactly. Let's say that even if Amsterdam was my base, I was curious also to keep moving somewhere.
Oh.
And as we said at the beginning, that sometimes when you move somewhere, when you move abroad, you will never be happy, even never again, because you always like compare one city to the other, and that's fucked up. But I wanted to discover a new city. I'm a person who I don't do holidays like, oh, let's go 2 weeks to somewhere. Let's go to. I prefer to do a month, 2 months in a city or in a region, and to actually feel the city, discover the city. And I don't care. I mean, Eiffel Tower is there, fine. But I want to discover Jean-Pierre bar in the middle of nowhere. I prefer that kind of thing, discover this kind of thing. So I had this curiosity, and I wanted to do like a internship somewhere. And I thought at the beginning, the first thought was like, oh, let's do it in Barcelona. I was like, no, why Barcelona? I could do it later. So I contact with a dance company which I love in the Netherlands. It's the NDT, Netherlands and Theater, and I was contacting with a light designer from them, and she told me that she was in a project with the choreographer from that company, and I was like, oh my god, I love it. And they were involved in a co-production between a theater in The Hague. NDT is based in The Hague, and the choreographer is Dutch. Is Czech from Prague. So we had rehearsals in Prague. So I definitely jumped in that with Luz Schakenbos and Jiri Pokorny, and we went to Prague for 1.5 months for work. And it was amazing. And because I was staying there with a guy from the city, even he lives in the Netherlands. I was going to the river to have beers, and I was going to the tiny little spots in the nature or in the city, and it was super, super nice. And yeah, it was very nice about how I went to Prague. We went for work, and then I love Berlin. Berlin for me is one of most inspirational cities. I love the city. I love the music. I love techno, but not only for the party. It's also very inspiration for me as a maker. It brings me to a state or a place that I love it. It's just, I don't do drugs, but just the music. It put me in a state that it worked for me a lot. I'm very ha-ha, but when I create, I'm a bit dark and a bit like conceptual and very abstract. So with the techno, I can go somewhere in that direction. Really and artistic. Berlin put me in that, and I love it. The industriality, the vibe, on this industrial vibe, the music, the people. Just love Berlin.
You need to feel it. Like Berlin has like this dichotomy. I always talk about it with a lot of people. Either you love it or you hate it. There is no middle point in Berlin, to be honest. I mean, there is the touristic middle point, which is going there and just enjoying the touristic spots and going back home. That's the middle point that you can get. But if you live in Berlin, either you will hate it or you will love it. It's not something that you can be in the middle of. Okay. While Prague, for example, has a different vibe from what I've lived and I've seen. I think Prague has still like this kind of things developing, and somehow you're a little bit more disconnected. So, but most of the people.
Let's say maybe the difference between Berlin and Prague is that first the size, but the size affect the fact that the Prague is more like a fairy tale kind of look like. I mean, it's beautiful. You have the George Bridge and have the castle, blah blah, and you have tourists everywhere. That's true. That when I was there, I didn't know what to expect. My parents were coming to visit in the week 3 I was there, so I decided to wait for them to see all the touristic stuff. But you can feel more this touristic thing. While in Berlin, there is nothing too much. It's a touristic city, but it's so big that actually do.
Well, it's the ring. Berlin is the ring.
I mean, it
has a circle. Inside the circle of Berlin.
Of course, you have like the
but it's
Holocaust. Of course, there are hotspots for the tourists.
Eventually, like in Prague, like you have the clock, the astronomical clock, the castle, the Petrin Tower, the King's Bridge, whatever, and then you end in Karlin, which is a super alternative neighborhood of Prague, for example, and. Yeah,
there is nobody there. Spots where nobody's there. Exactly.
But it's like every city.
You can feel it. You can see it in Berlin also. You go to Berlin and you can see who is from the city and who is not from the city.
Yeah. Totally.
Berlin brings this like curiosity for the techno vibe, but nobody knows. I mean, the techno in Barcelona is not the techno in Berlin.
No.
And people comes to Berlin thinking it will be kind of party. It's not that kind of party. It's something different. And one thing about what I love about Berlin comparing to Amsterdam is like the fact that in the metro you will find in every metro going to every area. Amsterdam doesn't have metros. Or it has metros, but nobody uses them. Just what?
Well.
The metros in Berlin, it goes to every area. In every metro, you will find people who is not here, even he is not here 100% because of drugs, because of being homeless, because of any reason, all acceptable. Not for the situation, but for whatever reasons, I'm nobody to judge. But those metros goes everywhere, and everybody's used to see this kind of different ways of realities. And everybody can emphasize or at least get used to that these realities exist as well. Well, in Amsterdam, everything is beautiful and nobody goes to the poor neighborhoods. And it's a bit more Instagram city, Amsterdam, than Berlin. And that's what I also like about Berlin.
Yeah.
How honest it can be.
It's the brutalism itself. Like eventually, if you compare it to Barcelona also, like, what you get used if you travel and you go to Raval every day. If you stay in your neighborhoods where everything is nice and polished, you never see everything. When did that happen? Like you said, it was an internship. So Prague and Berlin was while you were still studying. How long it was the School of Theatre?
No, the Berlin was an internship. Prague was in 2017. And actually, it happened something like really whoa. It was the summer. I was there in August and September, and it was the summer of the attack in Barcelona. So I remember my friends texting me, "Hey Gerard, are you okay? Is your family okay?" Because suddenly after rehearsal, we heard the news about the attack in Ramblas in Barcelona. So it was like very shocking. It was like I had even not to cry as it is, but I was very emotional and very touched by it. And that was in August 2017. And then Berlin became, I went to Berlin in 2019. That means 8 months before moving back to Barcelona. And actually in Berlin, what I did to Berlin was an internship. I went there because I had the time and I wanted to live the experience of living in Berlin. I was there for 2 months. And every morning I was going to dance trainings. Every morning I was doing maybe 6 hours a day dancing. I met a lot of people into the field, but I was not really in the internship itself. But Berlin also helped me a lot of the thinking of I need to change. After Amsterdam, I was already the year 7 in my of my life in Amsterdam. So I was like, okay, I need to change, and that was the beginning of the end of my Amsterdam experience.
So you were so settled down that you were starting feeling that that city was what Barcelona was before Amsterdam. Let's say like this, when you made the first change, or
kinda. Let's say that I was in a project with the Opera of Amsterdam that I was like super done of it. I was like, it was a lot of work. It was very heavy in my mind, very heavy in the work, and so I did. So I went to Paris after the project, and I didn't like Paris. I have to give it a chance again to discover the little corners. Mm-hmm. But I didn't enjoy Paris, so I went back to Amsterdam, and I was like a bit irritated by the project, by Paris, by everything. I was like, oof, I need a change. So I did 2 months in Barcelona. I went back to Amsterdam for a project with a workshop with a choreography department, SNDO, and then I went to Berlin, and then it was already like, okay, I need a change, and it was the beginning of the end of my Amsterdam life. Yeah,
the idea was already growing in your mind. Just before we go to that, like, so you were finishing school. How much time did you study in
4 years?
4 years. Oh wow, that's like it's a degree, like a university degree, like on top of the architecture, like whatever. So you have a double degree, let's say like this.
No, because I didn't finish architecture.
Ah, okay, well. Well, but you have 1 degree and 75%.
No,
it's okay. And so what happened then? It's like you went out. Was it easy to find a job after university there? Like, I mean, I can.
Well, let's say it got me in the years that you are after school, and I was already involved in artistic projects. Mm-hmm. I was working aside during the school in a bar, not the same bar at the beginning, but in a bar which I liked a lot, blah, blah, blah. But it got me in the years that you are after school, that they're calling you all the time, like, because, hey, Gerard, let's do something, and yeah, I was lucky in that sense.
Okay. So from all this taking, like, before we go back to Barcelona, let's say like this, I want just to ask you one of the questions that I ask a lot of people, but what is the most beneficial part that you took of these 7 years, and the most like amazing and the less amazing experience that you had in Netherlands during this 7 years in there, which is quite a lot of time?
The best. Okay, let's say that I was 22 when I moved. Mm. You became an adult when you're 18, but that's on theory. Yeah. You became an adult in your 20s, in your early 20s. So let's say I became an adult in Netherlands, and it helped me a lot in the fact that to realize also from growing up in a different city, I could compare, and and right now you will see me fighting either for Spain, Catalonia, also for the Netherlands, and nothing is as good as people think it is, neither people think sells it is, and it put me in the perspective of like, this is talking about comparing cities, or this is better, no, this is better. No, it's like, wait, let's say like the best thing is like I got mature I got mature there, and it put me in perspective. If I would have lived my 20s in Barcelona, I would be different, because it will have my I don't like to call it comfort zone because it was comfort zone there as well, but it was more like what I had always, and there I had the chance to know a lot of things and to put in perspective many stuff, and I think that helped me in to get mature in different way. I also like the bikes. I'm always moving by bike in Barcelona, so that's really a big part of my of my Amsterdam thing. And yeah, but as I said before, one of the bad things about living abroad is that I will never be happy forever in a place, because I will be comparing. Barcelona is amazing, but Amsterdam as well, and I cannot have both at the same time. So also for the bad things, there are bad things here, bad things there, and one thing of the bad things of living in Amsterdam, I don't think it's fair enough to mention the specific things with things there, but you always realize that how north of Europe sometimes they know how to sell themselves, but then then it's not magical. I think it is, and we need to learn here in the south to valorate what we have, because it's also very nice.
Promote ourselves a little bit better also, like besides being a touristic spot for everyone, like whatever.
Yeah.
Nice.
And also in a way of like being tolerance, and Netherlands is not as tolerant as they think they are, and they are not as open as they think they are, and yeah, whatever.
Good. Well, I think it has all advantages and disadvantages. I know you compare cities, whatever you do it. I think from my experience, the only thing that you can do is just putting whatever it's the need that you have at that moment, and whatever it's your moment in life that you're trying to get, and what it's the city that fulfills you better, if you have the option to do that. And even if you do that, you realize that there is things from your previous city that might be something that you miss. You will always miss things, so it's a little bit difficult.
What I think is important, I think it's as a tip for people who move abroad. Well, first, I think everybody, it should be mandatory that everybody move abroad at least for a year, or not, or maybe not in one place, but yeah, it's interesting to be in one place for a year, because it opens your mind a lot. It makes you learn a lot, and it makes you put in perspective many things. And I think it should be something that everybody who should have the curiosity to do, because it makes you double think many stuff, and when you know something very good, okay, fine, but there are more things, and that thing sometimes is like challenge. Okay, fine. So I think it should be mandatory for. And what you were asking, because I want to say something also about that.
No, just like pointing that you always miss some part of the cities. I want to talk about why and how you went back to Barcelona, because I think it's an important part of your story also. We do the short break right now and just come back after and do the closing of the episode.
Perfect.
All right. So we just came back from a short break. We were talking just before cutting about this moment where you were in Berlin, plus some other months before, Paris, going back to Amsterdam, realizing that you wanted to do a change again. So it was like the end of your time in Amsterdam. You decided that was like the moment to do the switch again. Why coming back home instead of going to a new city, for example?
Let's say I never felt it like going back home. It wasn't a year, it wasn't 2 years, it was 7 years. So I never felt it like going home. But as I said, I love Berlin. And that was actually my first option. I want to move to Berlin. That was the first option. But because I was a bit like fed up with all the Dutch opera kind of project environment, I didn't want to deal with all the bureaucracy of the German country in German, because as we know, we don't speak as it is. The English is not as fluent or as easy to communicate, to make administration stuff in English in Germany. So Berlin was becoming even if I love the city, I was like, okay, I need a break. I don't want to do this now. I don't want to do all the bureaucracy of like papers, work permissions, work license, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, let's do. Then two other options became Madrid or Barcelona. So then I was already 29 and I was like, okay, I never felt like going back home, but I was like, maybe I want to do a couple of years in Barcelona to see. So at the end, I decided to do Barcelona instead of Madrid.
Mm-hmm.
It's true that I love like semi-long stays. So I in my mind was like, let's move to Barcelona. Having in mind of after 2 years, move to Berlin. That was my goal. And in between, do little short stays or 1 month in Madrid, 1 month in Amsterdam again, or 1 month, 2 weeks, whatever, just to have like the input from other cities. My first option was moving back and that was the second time I put a deadline. I was like, when I go back from Berlin, I was like, first it was June, but my birthday is in July, so I was like, let's spend the last birthday in Amsterdam, awesome. And then my deadline was like in September. I'm moving out of Amsterdam. I was still thinking about where exactly, but I was like in September I'm moving out of Amsterdam. Not because I hate it, not because I just wanted to change. I'm happy that I left without needing. I needed change, but it wasn't because I hated Amsterdam. Yeah. And I don't want to hate Amsterdam. Besides, I have things to say, blah blah blah. So I decided that in September I was moving out, and yeah, I arrived in Barcelona was very tough. Was very because I was coming from a tough or like heavy time in Amsterdam. So when I said, okay, I'm doing it, yeah, I quickly I want to find a place in Barcelona. I want to find the way how to do the moving stuff with a big truck. I had things for 7 years, I had costumes, I had furnitures, I had books, I had a lot of stuff. So it was a truck. So yeah, July, August, especially August, which was my last month in Amsterdam, was like, I didn't believe it. It was like, what the fuck I'm doing? What I'm doing? Wow. It was like, was floating, was like a bubble, like what I'm doing. And the day that I had the flight, I was crying like a baby because I couldn't believe that I was leaving. It was super heavy. It was like, wow. And I'm more conscious that I'm in Barcelona than I'm not in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam. When I think in Amsterdam, I easily could get nostalgic and I get emotional. I could easily cry because it was like 7 years of my 7 very important years of my life. So yeah, it was tough. It was intense, very intense. When I arrived to Barcelona, I arrived in Barcelona, and that was the moving out of Barcelona of Amsterdam was intense. The arriving in Barcelona, it was tough. Professionally, it went really good. I found a job really easily. I was performing already in October, moving in September. I was already performing in October. I found a job where I'm working now, meeting the a technician in a concert during La Merced, the Barcelona festivities. So I met in a concert a guy, and he gave me the number. And in a few weeks, I was already working in that project, which I'm still working now. And so professionally, it went really good. Socially, it's not the thing that it was socially. It went bad. It was not the social thing.
Yeah.
It was that I was moving to a city that it wasn't new for me. If I would have moved to Berlin or to Madrid or to Tarragona, doesn't matter. It would have been like this
discovery,
new things. When I'm gonna go to do the groceries, when I'm gonna go to have a coffee. When I moved to Barcelona, I moved straight to my place. I moved there straight. I didn't went to my parents in any moment. So I went straight to my new place.
And everything was known. Everything was background.
I didn't had the excitement. I think it was like, it's nice. I'm in a new city, but I didn't felt like that magical point that it was when I moved to Amsterdam. I moved to Amsterdam. The second day I was waking up in front of a canal. Everything was white of snow, and very sunny, super beautiful. When I moved to Barcelona, it was very nice, but I didn't have this like magical sparkle to enjoy and to really have the feeling of living in Barcelona.
Did it change?
And then 6 months later, the little monster appears in the wall. So in Spain we have a lockdown for a couple of months, very very strict, and I have to say that it went really, really good for me. I was living in a place where we had terraces, and I could see the sun going out, rising up every day from the sea. So that was also very nice. But it helped me a lot to stop and to say, okay, Gerard, let's start from here. Let's start from here now. You arrive in Barcelona now. And we slowly, I'm not saying that the COVID was the best experience of my life, definitely not. But it helped me that moment of stop to focalize and to begin to see what I wanted to do. Then I also decided to go back to school to do courses to let people to know me, to get in touch with people in the field, like in the arts field, theater field, to know me, and slowly began to arrive in Barcelona in the way I arrived in Amsterdam. So the idea of moving out after 2 years to Berlin, it has changed a little bit, because actually, it changed a little bit. I haven't been in Amsterdam ever since I'm back. That means almost 3 years. Okay. This year is going to happen, because I didn't want to arrive to an Amsterdam. It wasn't mine, so I want to arrive in Amsterdam that I still remember and still fresh for me. But I don't think I will go back to Amsterdam to live. Berlin, I don't think I'm going to live like forever, like I'm moving everything out to move to Berlin. But my feeling now is that Barcelona, it will become like the base. And yes. From Barcelona, as I said before, I don't like to do holidays, but I like to do long stays. Maybe I'm going to go, for sure, Amsterdam is going to be one of them. I'm going to go to Amsterdam for a month, 2 months. 3 weeks, proper time, not to do holidays, but to enjoy the city again. Going to trainings, going to dance trainings, dance classes, theater things, going to theater, blah, blah. And that I think is one of for my way of being, one of the tips also I want to give to people when they move when they go to see new cities. The city is not the Torre Eiffel or the Big Ben or the windmills in the Netherlands. No, it's also the people. Like, let yourself deep into what is the city about. It's not my city is going to, I don't know, to a bar called, in Spain we say Bar Manolo, which is a more random bar run by old men. That's my Barcelona, and that's my Barcelona. And in Amsterdam, I was going to a bar next to my place. I was going to swim in the river, and I had a spot. That's my Barcelona, my Amsterdam. And that thing is very important for people when they go to different places to attach to things that are important for them, not important in TripAdvisor or whatever, because otherwise you don't need to travel. You just have to read a book and see, okay, that's nice, fine, bye. And that's an important tip that I give to people when they travel. It's fine to have like an idea of what is happening there, but to create memories and to create experience for themselves and not for what someone says you have to leave. So, yeah.
No. Makes a lot of sense. So now that you're taking, like you're entered to the tip section, let's say like this, I will like to close our episode with the 2 questions that I normally do. The first one, you already entered into it. You already talk about the mandatory 1 year living abroad concept, plus discovering the cities in something that makes sense for you and not a generic way of discovering. There is any other thing that you feel like, even if it's a specific for Amsterdam, for example, or for Prague or for Berlin, that you...
In Amsterdam, definitely get a bike like the day 2. You move by bike everywhere, and that's the perfect way of moving. The hippies introduced these things to stop like the construction of a highway in the middle of the city. They achieved it. And Amsterdam is the bike city. So
just cool.
Be bad on the bike. Be cool in your life, but be bad on the bike. It's super nice. Super nice. We hate tourists, but be a master on your bike. In Berlin, not everything is about techno. There's a lot of live music around. Maui Park is super amazing with live musicians every Sunday. Little flea markets everywhere. Like Berlin has a lot of spots that are super nice, and there's a lot of nature that is not really well known, but there's a lot of nature in Berlin. And Prague. Wow, there is an underground scene, very, very nice. Very, very, very nice. Very cultural, very artistic, very celebrating parties in an old or abandoned train station is amazing. But there's a lot of culture. You can talk with culture with everybody. It's super, super cultural. They do speak English better than you think, even if they don't want to. But that's the way, and the service in the restaurants is very tough in Prague. But well, there will be the
tips. Yeah, that's cool. I mean, lovely that you are able to give 1 per city. That's really cool.
I could give 1,000 more, but.
Just to close the episode, the last question, I always give a little bit of space. If you have any personal or friends of friends having a project that you want to use the time to promote, so just go for it. Use the podcast.
Okay, I'm just going to interrupt this question because I'm going to give you a last tip for Amsterdam. Is that in the canal in front of my house, now it can be mine. I've been in a boat, I've been swimming, and I've been ice skating. So that's a really cool thing about the canals in Amsterdam. They're very dirty to swim, but anyway. And about promoting things, well, as I said, I'm a bit of an artist. So I'm very happy to talk about the last project I'm working on. It's called Out Of. It's a project about mental health. We have been working in a multidisciplinary project, photography, video art, and sort of a documentary about mental health, and to give voice, to give visibility to mental health, and to break with cliches and taboos, so we can talk about it. We all go to the psychologist or the psychiatrist, doesn't matter, to take care of this kind of issues, because we all have. And this project is called, as I said, Out Of. It's a project where there are 7 people in the team. And later, Mark is going to put the links. We're gonna, and there's in the Instagram link, you can see some pictures, some videos, and some interviews. If you want more information, just like feel free to contact me. I also put the links to my professional Instagram, which is, you will see pictures there of my projects. There's a lot of like set, movement, light, and space, which is my motto. So you will see a lot of darkness and light and movement in there. You will see. So for any question, any artistic advice or things you want to know about all those three cities, about Barcelona, all three cities that are very cultural, as I said before, just let me know.
Yeah, that's lovely. Like definitely, as Gerard is saying, this will be available in the Instagram posts, also in the links of the bios and everything where I can put the link on. So yeah, just go check it out. Give some love to the projects of Gerard. Give some love to Gerard himself, like, and just contact him if you have artistic questions. He's your guy in theater for the podcast right now. So the first person involved deeply into theater who has been interviewed here. So if you are into that, just go and check him out. Gerard, it has been a really great pleasure to have you here. Like, I loved the conversation.
Likewise.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We see each other soon.